of PMP Master's Class. I am so happy to have you all here globally from all over the world. We have representing most of the states in the United States, Canada, India, France. Not sure if I missed any other countries, but this is an awesome class and so amazing with the world of internet that we can all be in one room together learning the PMP, one of the best certifications that you can get. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about what I'm going to cover in our masterclass today. So this is how this is going to go. I'm going to introduce myself. Some of you have had me as your instructor, and some I'm your instructor right now, and some people may know me from the group that I run, the study group I run on Facebook. Some of you may have never even seen me really lecture or anything. So I'm going to tell you who I am. The next thing we're going to talk about is the PMP and CAPM exam and what the format's really like and what you should be expecting. We're going to talk about the exam, and then we're going to jump right into project quality management. No joking around here. We're going to jump right into it. Then we're going to have a special guest. I have Angela, who passed the PMP exam recently, actually in the last like 2 to 3 weeks. She volunteered to come in here and talk about her experience. What kind of questions were on the exam? How did she study for it? How did she really stay consistent and pass this thing and know when she went for the exam, she knew she was going to pass? Because the entire key here is that before you go in for the exam, you know you're going to pass. There's no chances. We don't want to play with $400 or $500. Most of us more than that, right? Because you're spending money on the training course. So there's no messing around with our time or money. So how did Angela know that she was going to pass? She's going to tell us about that. So she's our special guest. Then after she's done talking, we're going to go over project scope management. And then I'm going to tell you how the 3T system works. How do I help my students pass the PMP exam on the first try? And then we're going to jump right on to project risk management knowledge area. Then I have a gift for you guys. Like I said, everyone who's joined today is going to get a flashcards PDF. Basically, you can print it out and you have flashcards that are already made for you with over, I think, about 200 terms. So it's already there for you. Don't worry about spending your money buying like the Rita Mulcahy ones or the different ones that are out there. I'm going to give you one that you can just print out front and back. And I'm going to do a raffle. So if anyone wants to join one of my coaching sessions and to see how, and come join the class. So you're going to get an opportunity to join my class and ask me questions live in the areas that you're stuck. How awesome is that? Then I'm going to talk to you guys about the special deal that I have. If those of you that are in the market looking for training, stick around and I'll tell you about what you're going to get for just joining the 2 hours of masterclass for free, and then what you're going to get for this course. I'm writing my own book. You have an opportunity to purchase that too. I'll talk more about that later. And then I'm going to also talk about the exam changes in June. So for those of you, God forbid, if you do fail, what does that mean? What if you're really close to June? And what does that exam change really mean? All right, so that's our agenda. Now let's talk about me a little bit. So I got my PMP certification myself about 5 years ago, but I've been in the field of project management for over 14 years. I've worked with the World Bank, USAID, Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Defense, all in the field of project management. I started as an analyst and now have, moved on to becoming a senior project manager and working in the world of information technology. I absolutely love project management. I absolutely believe in the project management processes. Can you take the entire book and put it on a project? No, not really. But you can take parts of the PMBOK and apply it on projects. And I'll tell you, it is effective. And you'll make an impact on a project when you come in with the knowledge from the PMBOK. I also have my MBA in IT project management. I'm also a certified Scrum Master. Anyone in the world of Agile knows how much That's in the craze now and in the market of knowing what Agile is. And the lucky thing, we're lucky because as part of the PMP, we're also learning about Agile. So that's the great part here. And part of what I love is to help others. I love to pass my knowledge on. I love to help people reach their career heights. It's just what brings me joy, and I'm so excited to have all of you guys here today. So with that being said, why the PMP, right? I always tell my students, you need to understand your return on investment in terms of the certification or any investment really, so that there is a sense of passion in there and you wake up, and if you are studying for the PMP early in the morning or late at night, you know why you're doing it. So in terms of the PMP certification, it is globally recognized. Anyone with a PMP, you should expect to get at least 25% raise. And these figures right here are from the PMI. This isn't me making them up. If you go to PMI.org, this is exactly what it says. So if you're making $50, $60, $70, $80, $90,000, add an additional 25% on top of that, because once you get your PMP, that's exactly what the market's going to pay you. There are 1 million certified project managers globally. So there's a demand. Every job you look out there either says get your PMP in the next 6 months or you must have a PMP. So if that isn't enough return on investment, I'm not sure what it is. You may spend about $2,000 on a class plus the exam, but what you're going to get back is so much more, I think, in the first paycheck, right? So do you understand your return on investment? And that's important. You need to write that down. I always make my students write that down on a piece of paper so that you know why you're doing this. This isn't easy stuff. This is hard. And so you must understand your return on investment. And the other thing is that 60% of first-time PMP test takers fail. It's unfortunate, but that is a true statistic. They fail because there is a gap. I'll talk more about the why a little later, but just to tell you, there's a gap between what you're taught in those boot camps and what's really on the exam. And so for those that are taking it, I want you to focus. If you're taking the PMP exam, learn it based off of the 5 process groups. Don't learn it off of the knowledge areas, because the exam itself tests your knowledge. Do you understand what happens in initiating? Do you understand everything that happens in the planning process group? And so, you know, and executing and monitoring, controlling and closing. Do you understand the inputs and outputs? Understanding them, not memorizing them. Because once you understand it, there's no memorization needed here, right? And so that's part of it. In the boot camp, they teach you by the knowledge areas. But the exam is based off of the 5 process groups. Boom. Well, you know, there's that disconnect. People are like, oh, if I read the PMBOK cover to cover, I'm going to pass. The PMBOK is dry. It's too dry to, and anyways, you can't really, it's too much information to read and absorb. So you want to be able to dissect it. You want to be able to understand. And if you are reading the PMBOK, and that's my recommendation, is to use the PMBOK, but take a look at those inputs and find the commonality between them. Take a look at those tools and techniques. Understand what the tools and techniques are. Understand the definitions. Define the terms. What's parametric? What's analogous? Understand the term. And so once you understand it, it stays the same with all of the processes. The actual, for example, if we're saying analogous estimating, that definition stays the same with every single process. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box, because I will be going through that later on, just to let you guys know. Okay, so what is the format of the exam like? If you're taking the PMP, 200 questions, you have 4 hours, 1.5 minutes per question. And I've been told, actually, that the questions are not as long anymore. They're about 2 to 3 sentences long, which means that they've moved away from like the 2 or 3 paragraph questions, which is awesome. So that's something I've been hearing. And also, I've been hearing that there are not so many earned value management questions. So that's good news too. They're being more realistic in terms of what they're asking students. And the communication channel equation or formula has also gone away. Because if you take a look at the Pinbox 6th edition, that's no longer there. So, and that's a good thing, right? And so knowing what to study so you don't waste your time studying the things you really don't need to. The CAPM exam is 150 questions and you have 3 hours to answer all of those 150 questions. And the key with the CAPM is to understand the overall project management concepts. Do you know what a project is? Why is it initiated? What are the knowledge areas? What are the 5 process groups, right? And so that's why with the CAPM, it's less questions because it's like an introductory certification to project management. But still an amazing certification. I recommend anyone that wants to enter the world of project management with the CAPM, you're gonna definitely open up some doors for yourself. So, and same thing, you probably have about a minute or 20 seconds per question. And, but in terms of the material for the PMP and CAPM is the exact same thing. You utilize the PMBOK for both. The question formats are the same, but the CAPM is a little lighter in terms of how detailed they go into the precise processes. We talked about the format. You know, the exam, the CAPM actually you can take at home. But the PMP exam, it's in person. You have to go to a testing center and you need 2 valid IDs. They check you, you get 2 pieces of paper, they give you the pencil, they give you a calculator. And if you take any breaks in between the exam, that time is taken away from your exam time. You only have 4 hours. You can go take a break for 30 minutes. Well, now you have 3.5 hours, right? So every minute away from the exam computer or from your desk will be subtracted from your exam time. So use the time wisely, go in, take the exam, and then get out, right? I always say eat healthy in the morning, sleep well the night before, don't study. At least stop studying 12 hours before your exam. Rest, 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 rest. If you stress out and if you are not rested, that can also potentially lead to you not answering a lot of the questions right. So don't stress yourself out at all. How are the questions distributed? Look at the percentage here on the screen. So in terms of the exam and the weight of the process groups from a PMP, you're going to be really questioned on those planning processes, the executing processes, because that's where the most of the percentages are. And monitoring and controlling, they're the heaviest because they have the most processes. So focus on that. And if you're on the CAPM, you can see that it's pretty much evened out. What's the process of getting your PMP? Well, first, you have to see if you qualify, right? And once you qualify, you talk to someone, they look at your hours. I can do that for you too. If you want to send me your resume, I can let you know if you qualify for the PMP or the CAPM. You then find a training center that can give you the 35 hours that are required for your application. You take the training, you prep for it, submit your application, you get your approval, and you go and sit in for your exam. That's really the process. Now, for those that are new to the PMP and CAPM, I'm going to do a quick overview of what a project is so that you can understand, but know that this is a master class really for those that may have already been introduced to project management and have taken some sort of a training. But if you haven't, that's okay too. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of intro so that you kind of have a little bit of a background in terms of what is a project from the Project Management Institute's definition. And this is a definition that's recognized worldwide. So what is a project? A project is unique. A project does not go on forever. A project has a start date and it has a finish date. If a project in your organization is going on forever and ever and ever and ever, and they've titled it a project. Well, guess what? You're not working on a project, you're working on an operation. So a project is temporary, it has a beginning, and it has an end, and it's not an ongoing effort. Generally, projects are undertaken to produce a unique product or service. So look around your room, look around, even your clothing, whatever you have on, these are projects. Your phone at some point was a project, right? And then it goes into the operation line to mass produce the phone. But initially, the first one was a project when they created it. The washing machine, the refrigerator, a car, all of these started being a project. There are projects all around us. The Eiffel Tower was a project. The pyramids in Egypt were a project. So all around us, there are projects that have been going on for thousands of years. And each of those that I just named, they're unique. And they're at the end of a project, you have a result. Why are projects undertaken? You want to know, and this is important for the exam as well, that from an exam perspective, even in the real world, you want to understand, why was this project undertaken? Generally, it's because you want to take an organization, or you want to go from a current state to a future state. What are the objectives that this project will achieve for the organization? Because when you understand the objectives behind a project, you're going to have more stakeholder buy-in. Your team's going to be more motivated to do the work. So that's why it's important to understand why a project was undertaken, not only because you're going to have the team behind you, but think about this: funding. You'll get more funding, because if an organization doesn't understand the objective behind a project, you're probably not going to get funding. Same thing for the exam. If you have an exam question, you want to make sure that the exam question, if it's asking you why are projects undertaken, is to bring value to an organization. It's to meet an objective. It enables business value creation, right? It's either going to give you something tangible or intangible, like monetary assets, stakeholder equity, utility, fixtures, tools, market shares. This is everything that's tangible. But there's also intangibility of projects, and that's value as well. Goodwill, brand recognition, public benefits, trademarks, reputation. Think about Coca-Cola and all of the nonprofit work that they're doing in the community. They're bringing their reputation up. So these projects are actually intangible, and it's giving something back to the community, but ultimately it's helping their image. So think about it. We're all working on projects continuously to bring some kind of a value. So now that we talked about projects and you understand why they're created and why organizations spend so much money on projects, I picked 3 main knowledge areas for our master class today because of the fact that these are some of the ones where I get a lot of questions on, and my students always have need further clarification on scope, quality, and risk. And so that's why I picked that today. If you do have the PMBOK, I will be referencing page 25 of the PMBOK. And so that's the matrix that I love, right? Because it shows you exactly all of the processes that are part of a project. So with that being said, now we're going to dive into the first knowledge area that I'm going to cover in this, in our master class today. What is scope management? I want you guys to pause for a minute and think about the word scope itself. And write in the chat box, when you think of scope, what comes to your mind? What do you think about? And let's not even think about the PMP at this point. What are the thoughts? Just the word, the English word scope. What comes to mind when you think of it? So go ahead at this point, if you have availability in your chat box, let me know. What do you think? What is scope? Boundaries. Love it. Love it. What else? Keep it coming. Work. Someone said work. What else is scope? What we'll be doing? What is inside? Yeah, what something consists of, services, encompasses, deliverables. Awesome, Lindsay. Yep. The actual work that's going to be part of your project at scope, everything that you guys just said right now. And this is without us even looking at the slides. So the reason I just did this exercise is sometimes just look at the definition of the word and pause for a moment and think about it and say, what's the English definition of this? What does this word really mean? Monica said, what to expect to be done. I love it. Hisham said requirements. Excellent, guys. That's exactly what it is. And now everything that you guys just said in this chat box, let's take a look at it together. Scope. You need to understand that after integration is your scope management knowledge area, right here. And I'm supposed to have a little pointer. I don't know what happened to it. But scope management's right here. And how many process groups does it fall into? Planning and monitoring, controlling. That's what you need to know for the exam. But for the exam, you need to know the planning processes in order. So part of scope management is plan scope. Whoops, not yet. Plan scope, collect requirements, define scope, create WBS. We're going to cover all of that. And then we validate scope and control scope. Well, let's talk about it, right? In this matrix, if you have the PMBOK, it's on page 25. If you don't have the PMBOK, that's okay too. I'm sure whatever book that you're using has this matrix in there. All right, so one of the first processes is to plan for scope management. And listen, PMP students, we know that from a PMBOK perspective, we don't do anything without planning, right? We're always going to plan. So when we're talking about scope management, we're going to create our plan and how we're going to do scope, right? What does that mean? It's the process of creating a scope management plan, the document on how the project and product scope will be defined, validated, and controlled. It's your plan. Look at the first word. That's what you're going to do. And so when we're talking about plan scope management, you're going to have inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. And so you may say to yourself, oh my God, these inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs are too overwhelming. But most of the time, when you take a look at these, you'll notice that there's a lot of similarity between them. And some of the inputs come over and over again. So if you understand it the first time, you're good. For example, the charter is always an input in every single one of your plans. But when we're talking about scope, when we're talking about requirements, if we're talking about deliverables, look at this, your quality management comes into as an input. Does it make sense to have quality come in as part of your requirements? If your customer says, I want a phone, are they going to tell you a phone with a camera? Are they also going to tell you the quality of the camera? Type yes or no. Do you also want to talk about project lifecycle descriptions here? What is it going to be? How many phases is this project going to be? What about your development approach? Is it going to be hybrid, waterfall, agile? So when we're talking about requirements, we're going to have to talk about all these other things as well. So now you can answer the why, right? With these inputs, answer the why. And if you can answer the why, then it's going to make sense to you and it's going to stick. Enterprise environmental factors, organizational process assets. What are EEFs? Everything that's going to influence the creation of your plan. Market, government policies. Because guys, think about it this way. Even if we're developing a phone, you're going to have some government policies that you have to follow, privacy policies. Maybe there's some ISO standards for the camera, right? And so that's where your EEFs and OPAs come in. Now you know the whys. And if you have the PMBOK and you pull up the inputs, it's going to tell you exactly why this is an input. That's why I love the PMBOK, and that's what I recommend, because of the fact that it's the source document. Everything else is a translation. When we take a look at these tools and techniques, and I'm going over this in a little bit of detail right now because I'm teaching you how to learn this. Not memorization, but how to learn it. Expert judgment is expert judgment. You're going to bring someone in who understands scope management. Yes, you're the project manager, but you're not the expert in everything. So you're going to bring in an expert. But you're also going to have, you're going to do some data gathering, which is alternative analysis. What if right, and if we're talking about a phone and you're creating the camera, your focus is on the camera, what if it's 12 pixels versus 14 pixels? What are you gaining? What are you losing? What does your customers want, right? Alternative, what's the alternative? Because we're talking about requirements here. So you're gonna, here in your plan, you're gonna be writing how you're gonna do analysis of your requirements. And then as an output, you have two major outputs here. And I want you guys to focus on this. And if you have a book, I want you to highlight this, because in this knowledge area, you have two major outputs. The first one is scope management plan. Your scope management plan tells you how you're going to manage scope and the process groups. And then you have your requirements management plan. What do you think that is? Go ahead and type it. What do you think a requirements management plan is? And I'll tell you guys, and if you go back and take a look at your book, it's going to make a little bit more sense to you. Your requirements management plan tells you how to gather requirements, how to organize requirements, how to prioritize requirements. Everything requirements related is right here in your requirements management plan. So does it make sense that you're going to have two major outputs here? A, you need a plan that's going to tell you how you're going to manage scope and all of the process groups, or rather the two that the processes fall into. But then you also need a requirements management plan. How many of you guys, type a yes or no, on your current jobs have to have some kind of requirements documentation? I know when I worked with the Department of Veterans Affairs, I had to have a requirements management plan. There we go. No difference here. No difference here. I know it sounds fancy and we get a little like hesitant when we look at it, but guys, it's no different. Requirements management plan. Just remember that it's an output for the first time out of plan scope management. That's it. What are the key benefits? Why is it that PMP or the PMBOK wants you to learn this? The key benefits is that it's going to provide you guidance and directions on how scope will be managed. That's what your plan is about. We've been talking about it throughout the project, not just once, guys, throughout the project. And it's performed once or at a predefined point in your project. So you can do scope management, requirements gathering. You're going to define when you're going to do it. In terms of plan scope management, there's some things that I want you guys to think about. When you're doing scope management, I know in the real world, and we know that the PMP exam does not test our knowledge of your work as a PM right now on your jobs. It does not, sorry. It tests your knowledge of what you know from the PMBOK perspective. So we do not do gold plating. What's gold plating? Gold plating is when you give your customer more than they really wanted, more than what's defined in your in the requirements. Don't do gold plating. Never, ever, ever. Anything added, if once your requirements are finalized, once your scope statement has been created, your project scope statement has been created, if the customer wants anything added to that, it needs to go through what? Type it for me. What do you need to do in order to add new requirements? Change control process. CCB, excellent. Love it, love it, love it, love it. CCB. Once the CCB approves it, they're going to analyze it against quality, cost, schedule, and then they're going to say, hey, look, customer, this is going to cost you an additional $10,000 or $20,000, and if you want it, sure, take it. But here's how this is going to impact the project. So no gold plating. What's scope creep? You know what I always say is I think of creep and I think about maybe a creep like a former ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend that's a creep, you know. Okay, maybe not. But scope creep or someone who's creeping, right? Think about it this way. If someone is creeping, what are they doing? It's like they're slowly coming in looking behind a door, they're creeping on you, right? They're sneaking. So that's the same thing with scope. It's when scope sneaks in without your knowledge. All of a sudden, your project is delayed by 20 days. And you're like, wait, what happened? And you're looking at your deliverables and you're talking to the team. And one of your team members is like, oh yeah, the customer asked if I can add 5 more buttons on the website. And I thought, you know what? I have the time. I did it. And that team member didn't analyze that added request into the entire project, and now you're delayed. How many of you guys have dealt with project delays because you've added additional requirements without analyzing it? Even if a manager may have told you, or a director, and they're like, go ahead and do it, right? We have all gone through that. So scope creep happens without your knowledge as a project manager. And then now all of a sudden you have cost overruns, schedule delays, and so on. So we talked about the inputs. And as you can see, when I do my lectures, I go into the details of why something is an input. And PMP students, you need to do the same thing. When you're learning, when you're studying for these PMP, understand it once, understand it clearly, and trust me, you won't need to memorize it. So when we are looking at the project charter, why would the project charter come in as an input to your scope management plan, to create your scope management plan? Because it has your high-level purpose in there. It has some of your deliverables, some milestones, constraints, and also some risks are in there. So that's some good information that you want. Your project management plan, additional plans that come in to create your scope management plans, your quality management plan, because requirements and quality go hand in hand. You're gonna also need to know your project lifecycle description, development approach, we talked about that. And then any of the EFs that can influence scope. Organizational culture, infrastructure, personnel administration, and marketplace conditions. And your OPAs. You may already have a requirements traceability matrix. So you might think to yourself, what is an organizational process asset? Any templates that you can use, why recreate the wheel if you don't need to? How many of us run around for a repository of some kind so we can find a template? I love templates. If someone tells me I have a template, I'm like, please pass it on to me, right? We do that all the time. It's like that colleague just saved us like 4 hours. And so that's what an organizational process asset is. Either it's in a colleague's inbox, or if your organization's organized, hopefully they have a SharePoint. Hopefully. And tools and techniques, we talked about data analysis, but as you can see, I'm going a little further. What do we mean when we do alternative analysis? This is various ways of collecting requirements, elaborating the project and product scope, thinking about things. So you're creating a plan and you're not just going to type things up, you're actually thinking about how do I validate scope? How do I control scope? And so that's why you need a plan for it. And what does your scope management plan have? It's component of the project management plan. What does that say? This sentence right here. It gets, so I know I said it really quickly, but think about it this way. I always want you to guys envision the project management plan being maybe about 200 pages long. And then within it, there are components. So you're gonna have a document that's titled Project Management Plan. And then when you look at the table of contents, it has integration management, it has scope management plan, and all of your other knowledge area plans that you have. And I can't think of the page number right now. I should have had my PMBOK open, but there are additional project management plans that are going to be in your PMP plan, project management plan. But what is it going to do? It's going to help reduce the risk of project scope creep. It's to it's going to tell you how to prepare a project scope statement. It's going to tell you how to create a WBS. It's going to tell you how to establish a scope baseline. It's going to tell you how to formally accept project deliverables. And then also, it's going to detail out specifics about the project. But as you can see, I said that one word, which was how. How. So hopefully you guys caught that. What is a requirements management plan? Again, it's a component of the project management plan that tells you how you're going to do requirements. But not only that, it's going to tell you activities that will be planned, tracked, and reported. It's also going to have your configuration management activities. So for those of you who don't know what configuration management is, I'm going to tell you a little quick story that when it comes to requirements, requirements change all the time. And has anyone ever had a problem where you've gathered a whole bunch of requirements and then someone on your team didn't do the proper versioning control, and all of a sudden you couldn't find out which document is the final requirements document or requirements traceability matrix? Type a yes if you've gone through that. I have, okay? And that's what configuration management's all about. It's like, please, please, please put it on the SharePoint. Let me know what version this is. Let me know when it was updated so that we're not using the old version of the requirements document or requirements traceability matrix. Configuration management. That's what it is. It's versioning control. So you and your team are all on the same page. What else? It's going to tell you the matrix that will be used and the rationale for using them. So when we're saying metrics, sorry, I always say matrix, metrics. When we're saying metrics, why would you use metrics for requirements? Anyone can help me here? Could it be because you want to prioritize them? Right? High, low, give them points. What is that system? What will that system be? What is going to be your traceability structure? And when we say traceability, type a yes or a no here. Don't you want to know who identified a requirement and what department they came from and what their relationship to the project is? Would you want to know that? So that when you're in the middle of a project and you're thinking about, you know what, I don't have funds to do everything here because someone on the team decided to give some customer some additional requirements that we didn't count for. And you're thinking about removing some requirements, but would you want to remove a requirement that came from the sponsor who's paying for this entire project? Absolutely not. And that's what the word traceability means, so that you can take these requirements and trace them back to where it came from, who it came from, what's that person's relationship, what was the business need to this requirement, all of that stuff. Traceability. You know what, I'm not even going to go further. Think about the word traceability. Think about the word trace from an English perspective. Now we're going to collect requirements. The next process, right? We plan, now we're going to collect requirements. And so, where is that? Right here, guys. We're going to collect requirements. Look at that. Some shovels. I don't know why I put that there. You need to know that collect requirements happen in the planning process group, right? It's the process of determining and documenting. Two important words, determine and document. And managing stakeholder needs and requirements to meet project objectives. Write this down. That's what it is. You're collecting requirements because you want to understand what your customer wants. Basic. That's it. If I'm going too fast, you're going to have this recording, and so you can always listen to this again. What else? You're going to collect requirements from all stakeholders. Anyone that has both a positive or a negative interest in the project. You're not going to skip Susan, who hates the fact that they're going to have a new SharePoint, who's managing that department, who's going to get the new SharePoint. You're not going to skip her because she has a bad attitude. You will collect requirements from everybody. Yeah? Okay. So the project's success is directly influenced by active stakeholder involvement in the discovery and decomposition of needs into requirements by the care taken in determining, documenting, managing the requirements of the product, service, result of the project. You know what that says? That says As a project manager, you want to go to all of your stakeholders, make sure you get requirements from everyone, and you want to document it properly. That's all this says. That's what part of your collect requirements is. And for the exam, I want you to take a look at those inputs. You see that? The charter comes in because the charter has already identified some deliverables for you. So you're going to bring that in here, some high level, nothing detailed. But from a project management plan, there's some specific plans that you bring in. You're going to bring in the scope management plan because it tells you how to gather requirements. You're going to bring your requirements management plan because it tells you who you're going to collect requirements from, how you're going to organize them, the metrics, and all of that. But look at this other plan, your stakeholder engagement plan. Does it make sense that your stakeholder engagement plan comes in here as an input? Should your stakeholders be involved in collecting requirements? Type a yes or a no. What do you think? Who are stakeholders? Anyone that has a positive or negative interest on your project. So you may hate Sue. She's got a nasty attitude, but it doesn't matter. She probably has a whole list of requirements. What else? The business case. What's the business case? You better look it up. I'm going to quiz you guys. What is the business case? The business case tells you why the organization is undertaking this project. What objective is this project going to meet? And we're going to go over these, but I'm going through this in detail. I'm combing through it. I want you to comb through it with me. I want you to take each of these tools and techniques and understand them once, understand the definition, and then you know it, follow the processes. Brainstorming is brainstorming no matter where you see it. Interviewing, focus groups, questionnaire, benchmark, those definitions stay the same. You don't need to memorize it over and over again. Understand it once and you're done. Obviously, if we're collecting requirements, there's going to be some voting. You're going to make some decisions. You're going to organize that information in a certain way, right? Data representation. And if you have a nasty attitude, no one's going to want to be on your project and no one will want to work with you. So therefore, we're going to bring interpersonal and team skills, right? What is it? What's a context diagram? Sometimes you're going to have to do a prototype of the product. And before you even go on to developing it. What else? Outputs. Here are your outputs. You have two outputs. You're going to have your requirements documentation and your requirements traceability matrix. I think I've got a picture of it. But first, you can take a look again. I'm going into describing what each of these inputs are. If you have the PMBOK, it does it for you. Go take a look. If you don't know what a requirements management plan is, it's a plan that has information on how projects will be collected, analyzed, and documented. Same definition. What's a stakeholder engagement plan? See, that doesn't say management plan. It says engagement plan because you want to engage with your stakeholders. You just don't want to manage them. You actually want to interact with them. That's what PMBOK wants you to do. And so what's a stakeholder engagement plan? It's the plan that will be used to understand stakeholder communications, requirements, and the level of stakeholder engagement in order to assess and adapt to the level of stakeholder participation in requirements activities. Does it make sense to you that it came in as an input? Data gathering. Let's get these people to think and give us some info. One of them is brainstorming. I mean, you're going to have to get in the room with people and gather information. What else? You may do some interviews, right? In person. You may have to do one-on-one interviews or panel interviews, but you need to collect requirements somehow. But you may also have to do focus groups. What are focus groups? Listen, how many of us have been on projects where we have 30 team members, we're trying to come up with the requirements, and there's too many people. Some people who shouldn't even be in that room, and then everyone is all over the place. And you can't even facilitate it, right? Because Joe Schmo, who's like heard about the project, is in there because they're interested. So what a focus group does, it brings a certain the people that you need to get specific requirements from. That's it. That's what a focus group is. What is benchmarking? Additional tools and techniques. How many of us, when we go shopping for a car, we go to several different dealers for the same type of car? Anybody do that? Or a similar car? We're benchmarking. We're analyzing, we're looking at a similar product out there in the market to understand where we can get a better deal, or if we can get added features for a better price. We do this all the time. That's the same thing here in collecting requirements, because think about it this way. I've been giving an example of a phone. Do you think that Samsung does a benchmark of iPhones? What do you guys think? Do you think LG refrigerator does a benchmark of other similar refrigerators out on the market? Yes. Benchmarking is continuously, it happens all the time as part of your market research. And so does it make sense that it comes here as part of collecting requirements? Yeah. What about questionnaires and surveys? How many of us go to a grocery store and we're asked about, like, what do you like to buy? Or, or even when you go shopping to your favorite store, they want your email address and they send you like surveys. Or what is this? Kickstarter projects, right? When they collect funds for Kickstarter projects, they're always doing surveys. Same thing here. So put in the mindset of everything that we just reviewed is to collect information, and that's going to remain the same no matter what process you're in. And when you've collected these, you're going to make some decisions. And there's ways of making decisions. Unanimity, a majority, polarity, right? What are these? And so I know how to say this word. My tongue always gets twisted. Unanimity. I think I said it right. But anyways, that's when everyone agrees on a decision. Majority is when you have 50% or more agreeing on a particular decision. Guys, we're collecting requirements, not everyone's going to agree, so you need to have a mechanism of voting so that you can come up with the final requirements. That's the entire goal here. You may also do autocratic decision. What is that? That means someone's going to come in the room and say, hey, look, the pixel for this camera is going to be 24. It's going to be 24 pixels. That's what it is. We're done. Right? A multi-criteria decision analysis. It's a matrix that's going to help you understand how to come up with the right decisions. I know it's a fancy word, but dissect the word. Take a moment and dissect it. Multi, what's multi? Multiple. Criteria, what's criteria? Several different ways or options. Multi-criteria, decision. Analysis. Multiple different ways of making a decision using a matrix. Was that hard? Take the word and dissect it. And trust me, you're going to remember it. And think of it like funny ways of remembering it. That helps. Studies have showed that if you associate a word with something, you're going to remember it. What's an affinity diagram? Guys, this is a multi-million-dollar project spanned across several states and countries. You want a way that you're going to organize these requirements. There it is, an affinity diagram. What's the definition of it? Allows large numbers of ideas to be classified into groups. Write that down. That's all you need to know. Data representation, mind mapping. How many of us have seen mind mappings? How many of us did mind mapping in the 3rd grade? The teacher said, write about some topics about your dog, right? And you would put dog in the middle, and then you would say type of dog, how big it is, and like some of the things it can do. Same idea here. You're collecting requirements. You want to make sure that you mind map it, and that maybe other requirements are going to come from that one requirement someone else, one of your stakeholders gave you. Interpersonal and, nominal group techniques. This is when questions are taken from the group in a more, I would say, like in a more secluded way, in a silent way, right? It's not spoken out. And so what happens in collecting requirements? And guys, we know how it is sometimes when you're in a room with some high official stakeholders. People are generally shy about giving requirements or even ideas because they're like, what if someone shoots it down? I've gone through that. Have you guys gone through that? where you're like, oh, I don't think my idea really matters, or I'm not going to say it because it may not be important. And so from a PMBOK perspective, Sierra, thank you. Yeah, I've gone through it too. The nominal group technique is going to make sure that requirements are gathered even from the individuals that are not outspoken. Isn't that great? So there it is, nominal. And so how do you remember nominal? Look at the first, the way I remember this is no name, nominal, no name, silent, secret way of collecting information. There it is. Observation, job shadowing. How many of us have been told, why don't you go look at your colleagues, see what they're doing, and then observe it, and then come back and create a workflow? Who here has created a workflow process? I do it all the time. I work in the healthcare industry. Job shadowing. Zohra, same thing. Alicia, yeah. Same thing, guys. Then there's facilitated workshops. I don't even need to explain this one. Right? You're building trust. You're talking about things. Prototyping. You're going to have a sample of this requirements. Let's put a sample out there. Context diagram. What is it? It's a diagram. Matrix and diagrams are something you're creating to visualize what you just collected. And here's what it looks like. It tells you how things are interconnected. Look at the restaurant, supplier, customer. What does that mean? You see the arrows going in and out. It's a context diagram. It's bringing things back to the main objective. How people and systems interact. In this case, how the project interacts with the organization, or maybe how the project's going to interact with the outside of the environment. Here's what your traceability matrix looks like. If you don't know what a traceability matrix looks like, if you need a sample of it, I can send you one, or just Google it. Guys, it's an Excel sheet. It's a way to organize your requirements. That's it. So you can know exactly who gave you that requirement and what project objective it meets. Simple. As an output, you're going to have requirements documentation. Look at this, features, definition, and requirements. What is a requirements documentation? This is one of your outputs. Describes how individual requirements meet the business need of the project. It might start out high, and then as you know more details about that requirement, then you're going to add more information to it. Now that we've collected requirements, we're going to define our scope. Who's still with me? I hope you guys haven't fallen asleep. All right, so here's a quick pop-up quiz, right? Which process group is define scope in? Type it up. Let me see who's here with me. So we're going to define scope next. We collected probably over 200 requirements. Now let's define it. So when we're defining scope, it's still in the planning process group. And now you're going to create a detailed description, right? And so now, what was our initial definition of scope? We're going to make things tight. We're going to bring everything in a circle. We're going to make sure that everything that's in the circle is what we give to the customer, and anything that's outside of it is going to go through this CCB. Yeah? Nothing for free here. So what are our inputs? We're going to bring in our scope management plan, because the scope management plan tells us how to define scope. Then we're going to bring in some project documents, your assumption log, your requirements documentation, and your risk register. EEFs and OPAs. I hope you're asking yourself, why would the risk register would be an input? We're going to take a look soon. And now take a look at these tools and techniques. I don't need to go over these again because we just did. And if you take a look at it, the definition does not change for defined scope. Know it once and done. And we have some outputs here. Our major output is our project scope statement. And we're going to take a look at that in a minute. And we have some updates to our documents. What's the input? If you understand what an input is from the beginning, or what is within the charter, you're going to know why it's used to define scope. If you know what your project management plans are, right, you're going to know why the scope management plan will come here as an input, because it's going to tell you how project scope will be defined. Assumption log, requirements documentation, risk register. Why do you think the assumption log will come in as an input? It's because any assumptions that you've collected about this project, you want to make sure everyone's aware of it, so that when you are defining your scope, you're considering the assumptions that were made. For example, if you're bringing a new software, how do you know? And the assumption could be that if department where Sue works, the, what is it called? OS, operating system, is Windows, maybe the SharePoint requires Windows 10. Does Sue's department have Windows 10? Or is it Windows 7? How do you know it's going to work? You don't know. These could be some of the assumptions you bring in. EFs, organizational culture, infrastructure, personnel administration, marketplace conditions, doesn't change. You're going to have some policies, procedures, some documents that are going to be available to you to define scope. Tools and techniques, you're going to do product analysis. You're going to talk about the function, the mechanism, the size, the materials. That's part of your analysis of your product. Guys, we're doing projects to create a unique service or product. So obviously that's going to be part of our discussion here. And as an output, what do you have? If you have the PMBOK, I need you to go to page 155, and I want you to take a look at this diagram. What's within your project charter? I want you to know this by heart. I need you to know what's within the charter by heart, because the exam is going to require that from you. Now, compare that to your project scope statement. A lot of my students make a mistake and they look at the word statement and they're like, it's probably no more than 2 or 3 sentences. Is that what you guys thought about when you thought of project scope statement? Like it's just 2 or 3 sentences, it can't be too detailed? If you did, today, know that you were wrong. It is much more detailed than that. What does your project scope statement tell you? Acceptance criteria. It tells you your project deliverables, all of them. This is a multi-million-dollar project. It's going to have a whole lot of deliverables. Your project exclusions, everything that's not part of your project. Your project constraints and project assumptions. Cool, right? Has a lot of information. And that's your output. And you're going to have some updates to your assumption log. Additional assumptions may be made. Requirements documentations will be updated. Your traceability matrix may be updated. Your stakeholder register may be updated. Now we're going to create our WBS. And where's WBS? It's a processee in our planning process group. And this is what your WBS looks like. This is your activities. This is your work package. So you could have different work packages. Activities, work package level 1, and then this could be at the higher level. And that's your WBS. Generally, you have the name of the project up here. So it happens in the planning process group. So you must know that. It doesn't happen in your schedule knowledge area. It happens in your scope management knowledge area. Remember that. It's a way to break down your deliverables in a visual way. Because if you have a list of your deliverables, sure, that's helpful, but wouldn't it be nicer to have it in a WBS? Who here has seen a WBS before, or has worked with one, or has had to create one? The topmost level of each WBS is the total project itself. And what does it do? It provides a framework of what has to be delivered. What's within your WBS, it's part of the project. It's the work that you give to your customer. Everything outside of the project is not part of your project. Outside of your WBS is not part of your project. So here it is again. And here's your ITTOs, right? Ask yourself the why. Why is the scope management plan here? Because it tells us how to do it. Scope statement. We created the scope statement when we defined our scope. We needed to create our WBS. Your requirements documentation. But you're also going to use expert judgment and decomposition. You know what decomposition here means? You're going to take the high-level work packages and break them down. You're breaking it down. That's what that is. Out of this, you're going to have your scope baseline. Who here can tell me what's part of the scope baseline? I see some of my own students. Go ahead and type away, right? And then you have some updates, assumption log, requirements documentation. There it is. Let's take a look at these. What's your project scope statement? You must know what a project scope statement is. Describes the work that will be performed and the work that is excluded. Requirements documentation. Detailed requirements describe how individual requirements meet the business need of the project. Isn't that helpful? And take a look at this. WBS level 1. Thank you, Oksana. WBS level 2. WBS level 3. Decomposition is a technique. Remember that. It's a technique used for dividing and subdividing the project scope and project deliverables into smaller, manageable pieces. So, and you can see here that that's exactly what happens. What is your scope baseline? For the exam, you need to know that your scope baseline includes your scope statement, your WBS, and your WBS dictionary. Your project scope statement includes a description of the project scope, major deliverables, assumptions, and constraints. Your WBS is your hierarchical decomposition of the total scope, your entirety of what's included in the project. So the team knows what deliverables, what activities they have to do to meet the deliverables for your customer. What's a WBS dictionary? It gives you details of the work that needs to happen, resources needed, when an activity needs to happen, the number of resources needed for it, additional information, and forget about it knowing it for the PMP way. Look at the word itself, WBS dictionary. What's in a dictionary? A whole lot of information, lots of details. That's what this is over here. So now I'm going to move the screen. I want everyone to tell me what is part of your scope baseline. Type it up. Now, we're still in the scope management, but now we're going to validate scope and control scope. What happens in validate scope?
Validate scope is performed in the monitoring controlling process.
That's me talking. Let me remove that. But when we are doing validate scope, and I want to show you guys that picture because that picture is everything. And there was a reason I had that here because what's happening here in this picture? There's an actual sign-off. When you're validating scope, you're working with the customer. You're taking the deliverable to your customer and you're saying, hey, is this everything you wanted? And they're going to say, yes. And they sign off. That's exactly what happens here. I want you to envision that. Validate scope is an actual sign-off. It brings objectivity to the acceptance process and increases the probability of final product, service, or result acceptance by validating each deliverable. You do not just validate all of it. You validate each single deliverable. This process is performed periodically throughout the project as needed. What is the difference between validate scope and control quality? I'm not even going to read this to you guys. I want you to think about it this way. Do you buy something, when you go to the store, some of us at least, or at least I like to look at, let's think about, I mean, I know the world has changed, but when we go buy a car, don't we go in there and sit and drive it and see how things are before we make a purchase? We're the customer. We're looking at this product. And how do we validate scope? By giving the company our money. We give them our credit card or we take out a loan and there we go. We just validate. We sat in there, we looked at the quality of the product, We said, yep, this meets the quality standards of a Nissan, of a Toyota, of an Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, whatever it is that you're buying. You're first going to look at the quality of it. Correct. You are testing and inspecting before you make the purchase. That's at the customer's end. But the manufacturing company has also done test and inspection before that car goes out in their lot. So that's what quality control is all about, is making sure that your team gets a chance to get a hold of that product before it gets into the hands of the customer. So quality control first, then validate scope. Did you guys know that? Take a look at these inputs. I'm not going to go through these in detail because you guys already know what these documents are. If you don't, go look at your PMBOK. But look at these tools and techniques. I want you to make sure, validate scope, you're going to use inspection. Inspection is done of the product. Write this down right now. Inspection of the product. Audit of the process. Inspection of the product, audit of the process. Anytime you're validating a deliverable, you're inspecting it. You're going to make some decisions, right? Do I buy this? Do I take out a loan? Do I sit with a dealer and buy the car, or do I walk away? What's the decision? The dealership may say that before the car's even out of the lot, no, the car needs to go get fixed. Maybe the engine's not working. Something's going on, right? Before it gets on the lot, that product needs to be 100% of quality. Take a look at this output, accepted deliverables. What do you need to know for the exam? You're going to have verified deliverables that comes out of control quality. You're going to inspect it, and then it's going to get accepted. Inspect. Yes. And then if things are not right, you're going to have a change request. Here are the additional inputs, but more in detail. And I put this here because I want you guys to do the same thing. Do you understand why something is an input? I'm not going to go over this again because we know it comes up again and again and again. And it's the same definition of the same input. So if you know it once, you guys got it. What do we have? Verified deliverables coming out of where? Control quality. Work performance data coming out of your executing process group. Pay attention to where inputs and outputs are coming from. Lessons learned, quality reports, requirements documentation, RTM. You're going to bring all of this as an input to validate your scope. Tools and techniques, inspection, decision making. As an output, you now have accepted deliverables. Work performance information is going to tell you how you are doing in terms of what you have planned and where you are right now on the project. It's a progress report. Think about it that way. You may have some change requests. Your product may not be perfect. It may have to go through the change request process. Now we're going to talk about control scope. What do you remember with validate scope? What is that picture that you remember with validate scope? Who are we working with? Put it right here in the chat box. Who are we working with when we validate scope? Sign off with who? Customer. Excellent. Now, when it comes to control scope, what are we doing? We want to make sure that we remain within the scope that we had signed off initially with the customer. You want to make sure that your scope baseline has not changed, or if it has changed, it has gone through the change control process. Uncontrolled scope changes is scope creep. We know that, right? That creep. We've all had a creep in our lives. So what happens? You want to influence scope changes before they happen. You want to determine scope changes has occurred, and if it has, doesn't matter if it has or has not, it still needs to go through the change control process. Then you want to manage actual change when they do occur, right? How does it impact all of your other processes? Control scope. Take a look at all of your inputs. Are you going to need these documents here in order to control your scope? And then look at this under tools and techniques, variance analysis. What do you guys think trend analysis is? Think about it from a definition perspective. When we say something is trending, what do we mean by that? Like generally when like a meme on Facebook is trending, common, yes. What you're doing here is you're taking a look in monitoring and controlling. You're saying how many changes are happening based off our scope baseline. What are we trending towards? What does the future outlook look like? Trend analysis. You don't really have a lot of major outputs here. You're going to have some work performance information and some change requests. Because if your baseline has changed, you're going to need to do some change requests. Awesome. You guys are doing great. And then again, here, it's a definition of each of the inputs. Because I want you guys to know why this came in as an input. That's how I want you to know for the exam. I know I'm repeating myself, but guys, this is the one way to really pass this thing. Scope management plan, how scope will be controlled on this project, right? Scope baseline, you know here, scope baseline tells you exactly what you have signed off on in terms of requirements on this project and where you are right now. We're doing monitoring and controlling. You're going to do some data analysis. What is that? Variance analysis. Here you're doing some stats. We always do that. All of us, you can probably relate to this. Your project manager, your director comes to you and says, hey, can you tell me where the project is right now? How much work have we gotten done? You're like, oh, about 40 or 50%. And then he might ask you or she might ask you, where did we say we would be at this time in the project? Right? That's your variance analysis right there. Boom, real life experience. Happens to all of us. Work performance information, do you know what this means? Correlated and contextualized information, it puts things into a diagram for you. The number of changes, it's almost like visualizing it for you. Change requests, we talked about that. Now the fun part. I know Angela's here. I'm gonna have Angela, we're done with scope. I should probably pause, sorry guys, that just came on. But we just finished scope management knowledge area. So hopefully you guys found that helpful. Again, this is 2 hours, right? I can't really go too slow, but hopefully you've saved some questions for the end. I'm gonna try to get them from you guys. But now I wanna have Angela kind of talk about her experience of the PMP, what she did to pass the exam, how she used 3T system, and what worked for her, what didn't work for her, and how she stayed on track to pass. So Angela, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to talk. If you go ahead and share your experience, you know, and no more than like 5 minutes. You know, I don't want you to, whatever you're comfortable with, but just a quick summary of your experience, your PMP journey.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for inviting me to the call. So to give you a little bit of background, I took the PMP test twice. The first time I took the test, I failed miserably. And the second time I took the test, I used Majuba's course and passed above target. So hang in there, her course definitely works. So as she said, I'll share some of my tips and my journey along the way. So I first started with Majuba back in July and passed in November. So it took me about 3 to 4 months to pass. And the first prep tip that I would say is pretty critical to success is sticking to your schedule that you create at the beginning. So, you know, hold yourself accountable, cross off time and dates in your social calendar if you have to, and study, even if it's only for 15 minutes. Figure out what works best for you. So for me personally, the best time to study was at nighttime between like 8 and 10 p.m. That way I could go home after work, you know, like work out, run errands, do whatever I needed to do, and then focus on studying. So another tip I would say while you're prepping is, you definitely have to give it 100% and then some. So this will include rewatching videos that you don't understand, attending the weekly coaching calls, utilizing other resources and study tools like Rita's or TIA. Or if you're kind of like me and you doubt yourself, meeting with other classmates help me get through this hurdle. Because your wife or your husband, they don't always understand like what you're going through or the velocity of the test, but your classmates do. So definitely utilize each other to get you through this. You can help each other, like what works best for each other and so on. So that really helped a lot. When you finish taking the videos and tests around week 6, I created a mock exam schedule. And usually my schedule on a typical week would be like Monday, I would take an exam, anywhere around 50 questions. Tuesday, I would review the right and wrong answers and prep questions for the coaching call. Wednesday, I would ask questions on the coaching call and go through all those and continue that throughout the week. So then Thursday, Friday, take another exam, review questions, and then Sunday hop on another call. And I was doing this until I was getting around a 70%. And then when I got the green light to finally take the exam from Majuba, I was taking the 200 question mock exams probably like twice a week for the 3 weeks leading up to it. Creating note cards is super helpful. I also got a dry erase board. The dry erase board helped me with the equations or just writing things over and over again to help me memorize that. So those were definitely things that helped along the way while studying. Lastly, if you have test anxiety, that was a big thing of mine. It can be debilitating. I couldn't sleep, a lot of the time. I couldn't think straight. So leading up to the test, like the week before, I was trying to like meditate 20 minutes a day. I was looking at motivational YouTube videos and most importantly, practicing on my breathing. Because during the test, you can't turn on a YouTube video, unfortunately. So just take a few minutes, close your eyes and breathe. Practice your breathing so that during the test, you can keep your anxiety levels low. And on the test day, it was at 8 a.m. I got to like a Starbucks around 7, just had a coffee and breakfast before I got there. I immediately wrote down the equations when I got in there. I did not write down the 49 processes in order or anything. I probably just spent about like 3 minutes doing the equation brain dump. As Majuba said, the questions are usually like 3 to 4 sentences max. And when reading it, when reading the question, read the last sentence of the question first. That usually will kind of tell you what to do. It'll say like what best describes the situation or what should you not do. So definitely read the last sentence first. That helps a lot. Also, when you're reading the question, ask yourself what process group and knowledge area that they're asking about. So you figure out like what situation you're in, and that'll also help you figure out the answer. Let's see. The questions were mostly situational, about 5 to 10 math questions, so it wasn't super like heavy math related at all. And I finished the test in a little over 3 hours. Any question I wasn't like 100% sure on, I flagged it. I did have lots of flag questions at the end and try to double check as many as I could before the time ran out. I couldn't get through all of them. And then, yeah, you immediately find out the results and called Majuba right away when I passed. So I know that was a brief overview, but feel free to ask any specific questions you may have.
Wow, Angela, thank you so much. I know one of the things that I do want to say about you and your efforts, you worked very hard and you're very determined from the beginning, and you remained consistent. And I knew that you were on a mission, and I love that. And I think anytime I was like, hey, do you want to meet up and you want to go over this? And you're like, yes, let's do it. you know, so you were always open to that. And I think, you know, there is a sense of like, once you make that determination in your mind that you're ready to pass this, it almost becomes a vengeance when you do fail it the first time, because you're like, I'm not going to let them win again. And I could sense that in you, like literally when I know you were busy with work, but like, I think 5 weeks before the exam, you're like, you were on it. And I was like, wow, Angela's going to do this thing. And I knew by like your, I think second or third mock, that I was like, oh, you're going to pass. Like, there was no doubt in my mind. Like, I knew it. So, obviously, you know, your hard work paid off. And I know, like, and that's one of the things is I over-prepare my students because I want to make sure that they pass. You know, it gives, like, before you guys even go in there, and I try to do it with everyone, is that, that based off of your score, like, it makes me sleep better at night knowing that that I know that you're gonna pass, even if like I give you guys encouragement, and I'm like, that's how I want every student to be for this PMP, because like I said, it's a 60% fail rate. You guys invest into this class, and I would hate for people to go take it and fail. So yeah, even with Angela, like I was like, oh, she got it. I knew it. And congratulations again. Thank you so much for coming in here as a guest and giving the input and your journey. And I think, you know, I don't think you're going away, because that's what happens. We build relationships as part of 3T. I do want you to come back again and hopefully teach for me. So
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Since you've passed the PMP, you don't need to stay here for the rest of the master class, unless if you want to. But
that's okay.
I know. Well, have a great night, and stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. Have a good one. Good luck, everybody. Bye.
Awesome. I know some people are asking about the links to the course, and I'm going to get to that. And as part of today, anyone that's attending this masterclass, you're actually going to get 50% off of one of my main courses, one of the top packages. So I'll be sending that link in shortly. So let's go ahead and continue to the rest of, I'm trying to, all right, rest of the class. All right, now we're going to get to plan quality management. Let me answer this one question really quick. Awesome. Yeah, so Sarah, oh, okay. I guess you do have an option of doing the paper exam, but you have to request that in advance once you have an exam date. Once you get an exam date, there's like an entire process of requesting a paper exam. All right, plan quality management. Matrix went away really fast. So it falls into 3 process groups. You plan for quality, you manage quality, and control quality. I selected this knowledge area because of how closely it plays with scope management. And it's one where people don't understand the full circle, so I thought it'd be great to kind of go over this. But when you're planning for quality management, it's the plan, it's your how-to document. And obviously you will be bringing in a whole lot of documents so that you have a comprehensive plan in terms of how you're going to manage your quality on this project. And so you have your requirements, risk, and stakeholder engagement plan, and your scope baseline. Because again, you see that scope and quality are like brother and sister, is what I like to call it. I'm not going to go over the tools and techniques because they're pretty much the same, but I do have some pictures that will help you guys visualize them and know them for the first time. The output is going to be your quality management plan, and the second major output here is quality metrics. So what are quality metrics? And think about it this way. Quality metrics are measurements of your quality. What measurement are you going to follow on this project to make sure that your project is of quality? Look around your house. Everything has a quality standard, and you pay a price for your quality, right? How many of you guys buy your maybe your products from Safeway? I don't know if well, not everyone's from Northern Virginia, but maybe some people like to buy shoes from a designer, right? Versus buying shoes from Walmart. I'm not saying Walmart shoes are bad, but some of them aren't great quality. It might give you blisters on your feet, right? And so my whole point here is that we pay for quality. And that's what this is about, is what quality metrics are you going to have? Sorry, Zohra, I couldn't come up with another example, but we're constantly making the decision between how much money we spend on low and high quality products. And so the two major outputs I want you to know here is that we're going to have a quality management plan, but also quality metrics. Sometimes I have to come up with these examples, right? In terms of inputs, I've told you guys, right, we see that when you are creating your plans, you're always going to have the project charter as an input. But because this is dealing with requirements, you're going to bring in your requirements management plan. There are risks associated with some of the quality decisions we make. And your stakeholders may also have certain quality standards that may need to be brought in. Your scope baseline is going to have your requirements, and quality is related to scope. So can someone tell me what's part of the 3 items that are part of your scope baseline? You guys can all type at the same time if you want. And there are also some documents that are going to help you in creating your quality management plan. Assumption log, requirements documentation, RTM, requirements traceability matrix. Thank you, Akriti. Your risk register, your stakeholder register, your EEFs. They're all going to come in here as part of an influence. Tools and techniques, benchmarking, brainstorming, interviews, doesn't change. Data analysis, whoop. Cost benefit analysis, example that I gave you, right? You might say that I'm going to go to the dollar store and I'm going to buy maybe some kitchen utensils. Or I'm going to go to Sonoma and Williams, right? Or William and Sonoma, whatever that store is. So you're going to say to yourself, all right, if I buy it from the dollar store, it's going to last about a week. And if I buy it from another store that has better quality kitchen utensils, it's going to last me 5 years or more. So you're doing a cost benefit analysis as a consumer all the time. And even on a project, you're going to do the same thing. So cost benefit analysis, know that it's a tool and technique, and it's part of data analysis. There's a cost to quality, having the right equipment, having the right processes in place. That's all cost of quality. Training. How many of you guys are trying to become PMPs because of the fact that your employer wants you to be certified? There's cost of quality because quality project managers cost more, but you know that you're going to have better project outcomes. There's cost of conformance and there's cost of non-conformance. If you spend money on quality, you're going to have less rework, higher quality products, and you're probably going to save some money. If you do not spend money on quality, like training, like the products, in order to have good quality on your products or project, you may have to do rework. You're going to have scrap. You will have some failures. Liability you have to pay for, warranties, even loss of business. How many of us have hired someone who did poor quality job and we never hired them again, right? Type yes if you've ever experienced that before. Poor quality, you will never hire that business. You're gonna do, most of us, multi-criteria decision analysis. Look at this prioritization matrix. So in terms of quality, you're gonna have some kind of matrix that's gonna help you understand what level of quality you're going to accept. and identifying key issues. You're going to do mind mapping. Mind mapping doesn't change. It is what it is, right? But here, it's a method that's going to understand that you're going to utilize for quality, right? And so if you want, for example, here in the middle, you could say that if we want 24 pixel camera, or it's higher now, you know, what is that? What do we have to do from a quality perspective to have that 24 pixel camera? So you're going to do a mind map. You're going to do flow charting. So these are all part of, we've seen these tools and techniques over and over again, and now you're just going to utilize them for quality management. It's going to show you, you know, the process, relationships among different things. It's a flow chart. If you meet certain quality standards, what does that mean to that next step, right? And that's what a flow chart is all about. Logical data models. Here again, it's a visual, you visualizing it. So you can understand that it describes in business language and independent of any specific technology. So what it does is, here in your visual representation, from a quality perspective, you're going to draw out or visualize the quality process on your project. It could mean that you're going to do inspection midway. It could mean that you're going to have a checklist or a check sheet. Whatever it is, you may diagram that. And so from a PMBOK perspective, it's brought that here for you as a tool. What else? Here's a matrix diagram. Finds the strength of relationships among different factors. This is, again, another tool that you can utilize. But we've seen a matrix diagram come up over and over again. The same exact thing they're going to utilize for different processes. You're going to do test and inspection planning. That's going to be part of your project management plan. How are you going to do that? You're also, in terms of your outputs, we're going to have two major outputs. We talked about the quality management plan, which is, it's a component of the project management plan. And then you're also going to have your quality metrics, right? The number of requirements allocated by test, percentage of requirements by test developed phases. How many of us have to do user acceptability testing as part of your quality? Software development. Software development, or developers are always creating test cases because you want to test the software that you're working on. Quality management, now you're going to manage quality. Yep. What is manage quality about? And here's a trick part for the exam. Manage quality is about your quality process, not the product. So if you're taking notes right now, manage quality is about the process, not the product. What that means is it happens in the executing process group. You're going to evaluate your quality management process to say, is it working for my project or is it not working for my project? That's what managed quality is, also known as quality assurance. You're going to bring in your quality management plan as an input because it tells you how to manage quality here. You're going to have some lessons learned from previous projects that you're going to bring in, quality control measurements, quality metrics, your risk report. All of that's going to come in as an input for you to understand, for you to actually manage your quality process on the project. And you have a whole lot of tools and techniques. And we're going to review this. In terms of your outputs, you're going to have two major outputs here. One is a quality report. Your quality report is going to tell you the quality issues in terms of your process that you're having on the project, overall project. So I want you to take a minute and understand what quality report is. Write it down because it seems to be one that comes up over and over again. So make sure you understand the definition of a quality report. And you have test and evaluation documents. as an output. Because here, you're going to understand what a quality report, the definition of it, and know that a quality report tells you the quality problems in terms of the process you're having on the project. And then test and evaluation documents. Let's take a look at these individually. We know these. I'm going to go over. Here's what a checklist looks like, and I'm going to send this to you guys. And a checklist is basically you checking off to make sure you've done everything from a quality process that you need to in order to have a successful project. You're going to do alternative analysis, following one process over another. You're going to do document analysis, looking at reports, seeing what problems you're having, and you're also going to analyze your process. Is it working or is it not working? You're going to do root cause analysis. Where is a quality issue coming from? Where are you feeling from a process perspective? Again, this is not about the product. Managed quality is of the process. You're going to make some decisions here based off the issues that you've come about. And you're going to take those and you're going to put it into some sort of a diagram. Most of us have to, when there's an issue or a problem, or we're researching something, we generally have to visualize it for management. And that's all that is. And again, you can visualize it in a cause and effect diagram. You can also visualize it in a flowchart format. You can visualize it in a histogram format to say where the defects are coming from, where you're seeing it by week, by day. This is by day and the number of defects per day. And each bar tells you exactly where the defects are coming from. That's a histogram or a bar chart. It means the exact same thing. You have a matrix diagram where you're actually organizing data in a way where it's understandable. You could use a scatter diagram that tells you where your problems are stemming from. Again, this is all about managed quality. You're reviewing, you're using these tools to visualize, to show where your process is. Is it working? Is it not working? And as part of your tools and techniques, you're going to do audit of the process. What did I tell you guys when we were in validate scope? We use inspection when it comes to the product, and we use audit when it comes to the process, right? And then we're going to use design for X. Design for X is when you focus on a particular part of a product. You're going to say that, I mean, take a look at your phones that we buy and we upgrade all the time. There's not a huge difference between an iPhone X or an iPhone 10 or, okay, maybe I didn't get the number, an iPhone 8 and an iPhone X. Really, we're buying it because either the camera's better, it's a little larger, or maybe you can throw it in the toilet and it works. That's a design for X. That's how these companies keep us kind of engaged, and they get us to buy these products, because every September, the iPhone remains the same, but they enhance a part of it. So what they're doing is they're designing for X for next September. So as part of your managed quality, you're going to define the problem, identify the root cause, and generate possible solutions. Choose the best solution, implement the solution, and lastly, make sure the solution works. If you take a look at this diagram from a PMP perspective, this is exactly how you need to be thinking. Define the problem when you're answering the question. Identify the root cause of the problem in the question. What could be the solution that's going to solve it immediately? Choose the best solution, implement the solution, and finally verify that this solution is effective. If you're using this process, I know it's part of managed quality, to answer questions on the exam, look, you're gold. Follow this process. What is your output here? You're going to have quality improvement methods, because we're in managed quality. We're making sure to see if is our process working or not. You're also going to have a quality report. And Zohra, this is what I was talking about. graphical, numerical, or qualitative. That's what your report could be. And the information provided can be used by other processes and departments to take corrective actions in order to achieve project quality expectations. What are test and evaluation documents? That's your next output. It's created based on industry needs and the organization's templates. They're inputs to the control quality process and are used to evaluate the achievement of quality objectives. All that means is you're basically going to create these documents that's going to help you catch problems with your product and with your project. How many of you guys have quality standards at work? And you probably have some document that you have to use to follow those processes. Lastly, is control quality. And do you guys remember what we did in control quality? That's when you, as your team, you are holding the product before the customer gets it, and what you're doing is you're reviewing it, you're inspecting it. Yes, you are inspecting it. What? You're inspecting the deliverable for final acceptance. Guys, you're all gonna pass. This is awesome. And what are the inputs? Quality management plan tells you how to do this thing. Approve change request. And look at this input. Deliverables. Where do our deliverables come out of? The executing process group. And look at our tools and techniques. We're gonna use a checklist, a check sheet, statistical sampling, questionnaire and surveys. None of this should be new to you guys because we've been talking about it over and over again. Look at this, inspection. Guys, inspection, right? Inspection comes in control quality because we're inspecting the product. And as an output, you have quality control measures. Now you have verified deliverables that are an input to validate scope. I don't need to even say that. I knew you guys already knew. I knew that you guys already knew. Is that okay? Is that okay, English? I don't know. All right, okay. We talked about the inputs, right? We talked about the tools and major input here is your deliverables, right? Look at this guy holding the box. Pretty cute to me. Work performance data. Data comes out of the executing process group. Data gathering techniques. Checklist, check sheet. Don't know them? Google it. And you're going to see it right here on my slides. Statistical sampling. You're going to pick a part of your product and you're going to do sampling of it. Happens all the time, guys. Before we get our clothes, before we get our jewelry, anything we get, anything you see around your house, it's been sampled before it's been packaged and sent over to us. We're going to do questionnaires and surveys to gather information about a product. Data analysis, you're going to do performance reviews, root cause analysis, inspections, testing and product evaluations. You know it. We don't need to repeat this. Cause and effect diagram. You're going to represent data. If there's issues, you're going to represent it in a certain way. Your management will want to see things represented in a cause and effect diagram, in a control chart. They don't want sheets and sheets of information. Think about who you're giving information to. Histograms, scatter diagrams. I showed you guys visuals of all of that. And you may have some meetings, right? How many, don't you guys love meetings? I am in meetings all the time to talk about stuff. But here in control quality, you're gonna do the same thing. You know, we're gonna talk about the product quality. As an output, you now have verified deliverables. Look at that. What's the name of that bird? What type of bird is that that delivers the baby? Is that a baby? That's not a baby. That looks like a washing machine, I think. Anyways, we know that when it's a stork, yes. Thank you, Eric. It's a stork. Storks deliver babies, but here, this stork, right, delivered a washing machine with a verified deliverable. Where is it going? It's going to the customer. So that's what it is. It's an output. Well, okay, yeah. And then our additional Outputs is quality control measurements, documented results of control quality activities, and work performance information. So we covered quality management. The key is to understand what happens in control quality, how it fits into validate scope, also knowing the difference between manage quality and control quality. Manage quality is of the process. So with that being said, we're actually done with the quality management knowledge area. And now for the students who are interested in knowing about the 3T system, I do want to talk about that for a little bit in terms of how I help my students pass the exam on the first try. You guys see, I go through this stuff in detail, and I try to help everyone understand it versus memorization. I don't work with memorization. And so with that being said, guys, my class is 6 weeks of structured learning. And you actually, it says 1,000 question bank, but it's over 5,000 question bank that you're gonna get from me. I use 2 of the top ones in the industry, PrepCast and Rita's RMC. I do that on purpose because I know that I'm not perfect in providing everything. Rita and PrepCast do an awesome job with mock questions. So as part of my course, you get that with the cost of the price for the course. I also give you all the slides that you see are in an ebook. Not only that, I've summarized the entire PMBOK into 100 pages. So you get that. You're going to be part of a student community. And so my current students, if you guys want to say how awesome the student community is, I post about additional resources. I do 1-minute PMPs, additional mind maps, tools, job postings, really a whole lot of stuff. I have twice a week live coaching calls to help you really understand the concepts so that you're not stuck in the black hole. There are people who study for this PMP for 1, 2, 3 years, people who actually never even get the courage to go take the exam. So that's what I'm here for, to give you the confidence to know that when you go sit for that exam, you're going to pass it the first time. And guys, if I think that you're not ready, I don't even let you take the exam. That's how strict I am, because of the fact that I'm not going to allow anyone's self-confidence to drop because of the fact that they weren't ready or for them to chance it. There's no way. With 3T, I don't chance anything. You're going to have unlimited access amount of time in the course. Even though structured in 6 weeks, I give you unlimited time. So I work with you within 6 weeks or less, but you have access to it. It never expires. And, you know, there's one-on-one coaching. This is what you get as part of the course. There's no, most boot camps are 4 or 5 days and then you're left on your own. I'm with you until you pass. I'm with you until the day you take the exam. And I'm with you actually after you take the exam. Most of my students come back and they're like, Majuba, can you fix my resume? Can you help me with interview coaching? Can you help me get the best salary? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And so as part of today, actually the package that most of my students get is at the, there's that. Oops, I want to get the link. That's why I'm over here. It is $2,947, but most people that, but today, as part of this masterclass, I'm going to put in the chat box, I'm giving 50% off of this package. So at 50% off, I know Maz is like, I know Maz, I'm after you all the time, but it's because I love you guys. I want you all, everyone to succeed. As part of today, for you to, the fact that you attended this masterclass, it's going to be 50% off. So go ahead and register. The exam is changing in June. I want to help every one of you guys pass, so you have that opportunity here. And so the coupon code